Last month, I watched Reanimator for the first time, and now I'm back with Bride of Re-Animator, and it sounds like my boy Herbert West is going full on Jeffrey Franken from Frankenhooker this time, which is wild considering that both of these movies came out in 1990. Like, what are the chances of two troubled scientific geniuses deciding to make the perfect woman? Granted, Herbert West is not using exploding crystal meth to do it, but would I be surprised if he did? No. Like I said in my Reanimator review, I love a troubled scientific protege, so of course I was going to continue on with the Reanimator series because I fell a little bit in love with my boy Herbert West. Love a troubled scientific protege, and this boy is like the definition of a troubled scientific protege. Now, if you don't know anything about Bride of Re-Animator from 1990, let me quickly fill you in. In Peru, Dr. Herbert West and Dr. Dan Kane are medical volunteers in a civil war along with assistant Francesca Darnelli, researching how to create human life from dead tissue using wounded soldiers as guinea pigs. Discovering the secret to human life, West and Kane proceed to create the perfect woman from dead tissue. If you're new here, I go by Hordes and I post brand new horror content here on my channel every Monday and Friday, but as always when it comes to movies, I'm now going to go and watch it off camera, so that way if you too decide you want to watch Bride of Re-Animator from 1990, nothing will be spoiled for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie you've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish.
In the fridge, check there.
Well, I now know that Meg died at the end of the first movie, and that Herbert randomly has her heart in a fridge somewhere. Like, why am I not surprised by this? Herbert West, scientific genius, now turned grave robber and potential mass murderer, because the guy has now come up with the smoke version of chlorophyll, which you can use to give people an instant heart attack without actually damaging any tissue. Like, if you thought he didn't have any filter in the first movie, he has absolutely no filter at all in the sequel, and he will not let anything come between his platonic relationship with Dan. Like, the fact that in this movie he decides that because Dan is sad because Meg's dead, oh sorry Meg, but yeah, Meg's dead, he decides that if he keeps her heart in a freezer, that together they could create a new woman for Meg's heart to live in. Like, I get it, but surely that's going above and beyond for your friends. I don't think that the plot for Bride of Re-Animator is as strong as Reanimator, but it still has some good points to it. There's the police officer who is about as useful as Chief Wiggum that Herbert West kills in self-defense. Seeing a theme here. There's the dog that Herbert West brings back to life, which is missing a leg, so he replaces it randomly with a human hand. Again, seeing a theme here. There is Dr. Carl Hill's head being a menace to society and terrorising Dr. Graves the entire movie. And then there is Herbert West's relationship with Dan and the fact that he will go to such lengths to keep their friendship. Like, he means well, but it's not always the best way to go about it.
Love me!
But I do think that there are one too many of these little mini side plots in it. The entire movie is an hour and 36 minutes, and I think if you'd have cut one, possibly two of these side plots, there are some that I haven't even mentioned that happen in this movie. If you'd have chopped one or two of them out, then the pacing would have been that little bit snappier, getting into the sort of maybe the last 20-25 minutes when everything properly takes off in this movie. You want to get to the point where they animate the bride, and I feel like it just takes a little bit too long to get there. Like, the payoff is good, I just wish we'd have got there maybe 5-ish minutes quicker. Oh yeah, and the zombies are back, and they're just as much of a menace as Dr. Carl Hill is, and that is saying something, because that guy just does not know when to quit. What they do with his head in this movie, I really liked that, because you see a like hint of what might possibly happen, but you do not know that A and B are gonna come together in that way, and it's quite good. I quite like that.
Excellent.
I love Herbert West's mini version of like Thing from the Addams Family, or Floop's thumb minions from Spy Kids, that's just made up of like 4 thumbs in the eyeball. Like together they make a full Pokemon evolutionary chain if you line them up, like first evolution, second evolution, final boss kind of. I love that, and I love that this movie decided to use more practical effects because it's so good. I love the practical effects in this movie, particularly in the last 20 minutes, the scene in the basement and what happens in the mausoleum. And I was so surprised that there was an actual CGI effect in this. Bear in mind, this is the 1990s, 1990 to be exact, and it isn't horrendous. Like, it's aged quite well, but then the practical effects have also aged quite well in this. Like, there are moments that you can tell that things are puppets, because obviously they are, but I can forgive it because it's kind of, it goes with the charm of this movie. Like, do I think it would be weird if back in the 80s they had made things that looked ridiculously realistic? Yes. Bear in mind, this is also a science fiction horror comedy. That's a mouthful. So I love that there is this little bit of like, they don't quite look 100% realistic, but I like it. I really like it. I'm always going to like practical effects over CGI. Reanimator had some really good ones. Bride of Re-Animator also has some really good ones. I love the full body prosthetics that the bride is in, the fact that she has to walk around on tiptoe, that is written into the story because of how Herbert West got her feet. I think that's great. The zombies all look really good again. Apart from Chief Wiggum, because I forgot his name, so that's what I'm going to call him. He just looks like he's got a black eye all the time, but that's a cosmetic decision. I like it. I really like the effects in this movie, so props to Reanimator for continuing to do solid practical effects, even back in 1990. If you've seen the first movie, the soundtrack in Bride of Re-Animator is exactly the same as Reanimator, so you've already got that familiar association there, and I kind of love that they just took the music that you already knew and brought it through to the sequel. It's such a great way and a really simple way to tie the series together because, like I said, you've got that association already there. You hear that piece of music, you know it's Reanimator. You hear that piece of music again, we're back in the Reanimator world. While I don't think that Bride of Re-Animator is as strong as Reanimator, doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good movie. And I do think that it is a fairly decent sequel to the original movie. Did I think I was going to like it as much as the original movie? No, but I knew that going in. Like I said in my intro, this movie happened to come out the exact same year as Frankenhooker, and I love the movie Frankenhooker, so if I'm gonna watch a Frankenstein story, I'm gonna pick that one, and I am gonna watch my boy Jeffrey Franken make Frankenhooker using exploding crystal meth. So no offense to Herbert West, I want Herbert West in the original Reanimator. I want that like science and only science mentality, and I understand that he's got a good relationship with Dan, but would I make a woman for my best friend? Probably not. I'm not about to go that far. I'm not going to jail for you.
You're gonna find yourself in jail.
I'm gonna give Bride of Re-Animator from 1990 a 3.5 out of 5 stars because while I still enjoyed this movie, I do think that there are 1 or 2 too many side plots in this movie that slow down the pacing just a little bit too much. Like, you want to see the bride get animated and you want to get to that final 20-25 minutes. It's just getting to that point that takes a little bit too long. I do love the direction that they took with Herbert West. I think it adds a lot more to his character, that you find out that while he is scientifically driven, there is another motivation behind his actions, and that his one and only friend, Dan. So it adds just that little bit of warmth and humanity to a character that could very easily come across as quite cold and sarcastic for most of the time. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my first time watching Bride of Re-Animator from 1990. If you've also seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts and opinions are down in the comment section down below. If you would like to know every single movie that I watch, not just the ones I talk about here on YouTube, you can find me over on Instagram and on Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, and I will be back on Monday with a brand new movie review of something else from the 80s, which might possibly be the most 80s movie I have ever found. So until next time, bye.